Welcome you, boys, girls, terminally online imps. Step right up for the postmodern show of the century.
A tale so dumb, so deranged, so gloriously petty it couldn't be fiction, because no one would believe it.
Ladies and gents, and those in between, gamers, grifters, and drama queens, unzip your minds and lower your guards. It's time for a tale told in Twitter shards, etched in memes, in Reddit lore, a war of blogs and so much more. A clash of pixels, tears, and rage. It's Mordor on a message page. Welcome to the show you didn't want to see, with brainworms, lawsuits, and identity. They typed, they cried, they claimed abuse. They made the internet news by news. I saw a boob in a video game, and I knew things would never be the same. I coded in fear, I coded in pain. Now I sue every troll who mentions my name. Built from lies and spilled Jack Daniels, fueled by memes and Fox News panels. They called me vile, but I sold out shows. I trolled and healed and fabulous clothes. I am the Sorn, the sob story queen, victim, villain, gaming's obscene dream. It's Gamergate, a shit show divine, where narcissists whine and truth takes a dive. So buckle the fuck up, we're going online.
Despite how people frame it nowadays, Gamergate wasn't some grand saga of good versus evil. It certainly wasn't a Tolkien-level epic. If anything, it was more like the vivid memory of being trapped next to some fat fuck, letting loose a barrage of Taco Bell farts on a transatlantic flight, cramped economy seats, stale air, nowhere to run at 35,000 feet when the stench hits you. The Fellowship of Flatulence. A decade later, it still lingers, sealed inside the fuselage of internet memory. The stench of bad faith, weaponized identity, and terminally online screeching, recycled endlessly through the vents. Hilarious if you've got the right kind of disposition. Deeply unsettling and utterly disgusting if you're the kind of moron who thinks every online spat is a holy war. In 2013, a small indie browser game called Depression Quest was released. It wasn't quite a game in the traditional sense, more of a narrative experiment. The idea was intriguing. As the protagonist's depression deepens, certain dialogue options become unavailable, mimicking the paralysis and narrowing of choice that comes with the illness. The execution, clunky, visually sparse, more of a concept than entertainment. But that's the thing. It wasn't trying to be the next BioShock. It was a modest, earnest attempt to say something about mental health. It found a bit of resonance in the indie scene, got a few polite write-ups, and then, as these things do, faded into the digital ether. The game's still online. You can play it if you're curious. Anyway, no one could have predicted what sort of explosion this small indie game would cause a year later. In August 2014, a man named Aaron Gioni published a, I shit you not, 9,000-word post about his ex-girlfriend Zoe Quinn, the developer behind Depression Quest. He accused her not of corruption exactly, though the post was later hijacked to support claims of nepotism and cronyism in games journalism, but of betrayal, of being a promiscuous hypocrite who used him. And because Gioni could write, you kept reading. He came across as a likable dude who'd been emotionally steamrolled by Catherine Trammell. For those of you who were still safely tucked away in your dad's balls during the glorious 90s, Catherine Trammell was the anti-hero of Basic Instinct, a novelist/sociopath played by peak Sharon Stone, the perfect woman who also happened to be a seductive, manipulative killer. Anyway, the post went viral. Forums exploded, threads multiplied, and within days, the drama around one woman and one irrelevant game had metastasized into something larger, darker, and far more dangerous. The timing was perfect. Back in the early 2000s, gaming was just a few dudes playing Unreal Tournament on LAN. It wasn't cool. It wasn't mainstream. It was nerd territory. Games were made by gamers, for gamers. Those who loved games and had some coding experience or artistic predilection came together to make games they actually wanted to play. Then came Tomb Raider. Then Halo. Then World of Warcraft.
Oh, it's a lot better than we usually do.
Alright, thumbs up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leroy!
Oh my god, he just ran in.
So big business stepped in. Suddenly studios were hiring writers, artists, and programmers. Not because they loved games, but because they could ship a product. Gaming went from basement hobby to billion-dollar culture engine. And when that happened, everyone wanted to wet their beaks. All the sad souls who couldn't cut it at film school or get into legacy media as movie critics suddenly saw an opening. Game journalist. Pseudo-intellectuals began converging on this weird new medium, prodding, poking, theorizing. A cultural fault line was forming beneath the fresh, booming games industry. The old order, white, male, apolitical, was being challenged. And the challenge wasn't subtle. It was loud, ideological, moral.
They're out there, aren't they? Waiting.
Scribimus verba, capimus sacrum, ave Dei, ave vox, ludum judicamus, veritate negamus, ave polygon, ave kotaku. Scribimus verba, capimus sacrum, ave Dei, ave vox, ludum judicamus, veritate negamus, ave polygon, ave kotaku. Umbre repunt super lapis.
Suddenly, it wasn't just about gameplay. It was about representation, about power, about who games were for. And most of those critiques, they came from people who couldn't name 3 games they'd played in the last year. People who couldn't tell a PlayStation controller from the remote for a model car. Meanwhile, the internet was exploding. The dot-com crash. Just a speed bump on an exponential curve. Everyone was blogging. YouTube became a valid and suddenly lucrative career path. Media sites popped up overnight. Forums turned into communities, communities into platforms, and platforms into ideological battlegrounds. While mainstream critics were still fumbling with PlayStation controllers and mispronouncing Metroid, entire subcultures of actual gamers were thriving online. Feral, funny, and often toxic. These weren't casual internet users. These were gamers raised on WoW raids and Call of Duty lobbies. It was the early 2000s. Voice chat was primitive, lag was brutal, and coordination meant survival. Most of these communities were young, white, and male. And when you drop barely socialized teenagers into a digital war zone with no voice comms, you get a new language. Wildly inappropriate. Wildly toxic. A fast, vicious shorthand evolved. Memes, acronyms, insults, crude, ironic, completely impenetrable to outsiders, like prison slang for the digitally imprisoned. This was their native tongue. So when the critics came in, with think pieces and moral frameworks, it wasn't just disagreement, it was a full-on cultural translation failure. And right when things were boiling, the press struck a match. After the drama around Zoe Quinn began to heat up, a wave of articles appeared, within the same week, in major gaming outlets. Kotaku, Polygon, Gamasutra, The Guardian, Ars Technica, Rock Paper Shotgun. They didn't all use the exact phrase, but the tone was unmistakable. They painted gamers as toxic, regressive, male, entitled, a cultural dead end. And they did it fast. All at once, like PR talking points passed around a Slack channel. What began as a lover's quarrel had become a battlefield. To some, it was about journalistic ethics. To others, a culture war. And to many, perhaps most, it was chaos. A digital wildfire sparked by heartbreak, fanned by ideology, and fed by platforms built to reward outrage.
Now here, I think we should sprinkle some nuance on this course, and not just a dash.
Because nuance is the garlic in life's kitchen. Without it, everything tastes flat, bitter, and online.
So let's acquiesce to our thrift shop Hannibal Lecter here. Let's rewind and get this out of the way up front. After spending far more time digging into the private lives of these two people than I ever wanted to, and reading Gyone's magnum opus, which is calculatedly vague about the actual timeline, I can say this with some confidence. This is not some fascinating or unusual tragedy. It's a chaotic, lopsided relationship, with accusations, counter-accusations that culminated after a few months in a messy breakup. It's not an epic romance. It's not twin flames colliding in the cosmos. Yet Gyone? He framed it like Juliet suddenly started handing out blowjobs to the nobility of Verona, to Romeo's total devastation.
I am sorry, I am not ready to be in a committed relationship.
Now here I can go into an elaborate analysis about how liberal ideas get distorted through the lens of American progressivism, and why Gyone, a self-proclaimed polycurious dude, got bent out of shape when his girlfriend slept around. But I don't want to jump to hasty generalizations. But let me say one thing. All available accounts suggest Quinn had a history of mental health struggles, including self-harm, something she's never been cagey about. As she put it herself in Boston Magazine, "All of my work is about being fucked up and being a fuck-up." She never pretended to be a saint. The problem is Gyone thought he could save her. Worse, he thought he was meant to. Now, I reckon that if you mistake an emotional basket case for your manic pixie dream girl, despite red flags waving like it's November 7th in Red Square, that's on you.
I can fix her.
Bridging cold and bold bright. Lost voices echo pulled through glass. Digital spirits, dreams that pass. The pulse of fear, the static's kiss, the threshold.
Now, here's the nuance I promised. Aaron Gyone wasn't some alt-right troll. He was a liberal, in the American sense. He thought he cared more than everyone else, and he thought that made him better. And when his white knight antics didn't land, he lashed out. On the flip side, Zoe Quinn wasn't some perfect victim. She was messy, unstable. She cheated on her boyfriend and then gaslit him. But since she provably didn't gain anything tangible from those liaisons professionally, this was never about corruption. It was about character. And here's what actually matters. You are not required to take part in their little interactive trauma play. No one is holding a gun to your head to pick a side, or even to give a shit, unless you're one of those fucking morons who feels compelled to moralize like some mullah deemed too stern by Iranian standards, casting judgment on a message board like it's digital Sharia court. Now what happened next? It all unfolded in 9 days, from a messy breakup post to a full-scale internet holy war. Influencers and YouTubers pounced on the opportunity. Meanwhile, gaming journalists and industry insiders scrambled to do damage control because they never expected this much blowback. They didn't realize just how much pent-up resentment was simmering in their actual audience, how deeply gamers hated their smug, insufferable, out-of-touch takes. And instead of taking a breath, doing some kind of reckoning, or even just thinking through their next move, they doubled down. They misrepresented what Gyone actually wrote, handing trolls a goldmine of spin, and promptly recast Quinn as a faultless victim. No nuance, no complexity, just a clean narrative to rally behind. And in doing so, they fanned the flames. because now it looked like, even if Quinn were some walking succubus, chewing through men and leaving corpses scattered across indie game events, the media would have still framed it as something she was compelled to do. Some grand feminist tragedy, some systemic injustice, a tale of survival, not agency.
Was this about your struggle to be heard?
The other side of the argument wasn't a clean counterpoint. It wasn't some unified front or noble resistance. It was the sound of the mob, messy, reactive, and foaming at the mouth. Ranging from valid criticisms of journalistic ethics and industry cronyism to full-on harassment campaigns, doxing, death threats, rape threats, pitchforks and torches and pure digital chaos. When, frankly, the actual message from both sides should have been, who the fuck cares? It's their business, their mess. Let them sort it out. Because if you strip away the rhetoric, the moral framing, and the ill-fitting narrative, there's no grand conspiracy, no secret cabal, just heartbreak, confusion, and two people who probably never should have crossed paths in the first place. But let's leave our star-crossed lovers behind. The first act of their tragicomedy has played out, their relationship in this farce complete. While they were busy airing out their dirty laundry, something much bigger was brewing in public. The battlefield had been set. On one side, a rising tide of feminist critique, media theorists, social justice warriors, and industry allies, armed with think pieces, panels, and hashtags. On the other, gamers, disorganized, angry, and increasingly tired of being told that they were the problem.
And we have forgotten what makes us strong.